Hello everyone, today is Thursday the 1st of May, which means today is the first day of the Mafia Romance Readathon. I'm going to attempt to do some vlogging throughout the next 10 days because the readathon runs between the 1st and 10th of May, so we've got 10 days to read as many Mafia romances as you possibly can. Now if you've seen my TBR video, then you'll know that I've got a very ambitious TBR for this month, but really I just wanted to pull together a selection of Mafia romances that are really on my radar, that I really want to get to, and I'm hoping to read as many as I can in the next 10 days. Now normally I would only read about 4 or 5 books in 10 days, so I definitely won't get to all of these, but I'm going to try and get to as many as possible. Now, if you have been paying attention to my Instagram, and also when we finally get to my read and wrap up for the month of May, then you'll know that the first 2 books that I read this month could technically be classed as Mafia, but I couldn't count them as points in the Mafia Romance Readathon because I actually read them by the end of April and didn't finish them in May because I had to cut off my reading list for April so that I could prepare my April read and wrap up video, and therefore I read 2 books right at the end of April that I'm going to put into my May read and wrap up. So earlier this week I did in fact finish Disclaim by Pam Godwin, which is book 3 in her Deliver series. Now this is actually kind of a dark romance series, but this particular book does actually focus on a cartel and human trafficking within this cartel, so that would have actually counted for points in the Mafia Romance Readathon. I really enjoyed that one, but to hear more about that, then check out my read and wrap up for May. And the second one that I finished was Twisted Proposal by Zoe Blake. I actually got this one as an ARC and it's not due out till later in May, so if you are interested in that one, I definitely recommend it. I rated it 4 stars. I love Zoe Blake Mafia romance. She writes some amazing Russian mafia heroes, really over the top, obsessive, possessive type of heroes that don't take no for an answer, and I just really love those. Zoe Blake's books are absolutely my guilty pleasure, so I would definitely recommend. So with that out of the way, what I'm actually picking up today, well, I've actually already started an audiobook by Giana Darling. In fact, I'm picking up When Heroes Fall because this is Kyan's booked recommendation that is worth 5 points for this particular readathon. I'm reading it as an audiobook, like I say, so that will give me an additional point as well as some other prompts. So I'm definitely going to be forging on with that. I'm also picked up from a Kindle perspective one of my short reads. So I had a 62-page short story from Stella Andrews, which is called Maximus. So I'm actually going to pick that up tonight because that'll be a really quick one to read and finish within the hour, and then I'll be able to put some points onto my board straight away. And one of the reasons why I'm trying to gather as many points as quickly as possible is because tomorrow I'm actually heading away for the weekend, because here in the UK it's a bank holiday weekend. On Monday we've got the day off from work, and so we're going to visit friends down in Cornwall for a couple of days, which basically means I won't get a lot of reading done during that time. So I won't be available for any of the live shows, which will have already happened by the time you see this vlog, but I will be back on Monday, and we'll be then diving deep into the readathon in earnest, because I've actually got 3 days off work then, and I'll be able to invest much more time in reading and also engaging with all of you as well. So I'm going to go now and actually go and pick up Maximus, and hopefully I'll check back in the morning to let you know how I get on before I head off to Cornwall. So speak to you soon. Bye. Okay, so in my last clip, I think it was still Thursday the 1st of May, and I was just really kicking off the Mafia Romance Readathon. Now, I did manage to read 1 book on that evening. However, it was only a short story, and since then I've only finished 1 more. Again, another very short kind of novella. So the first short story that I read was Maximus by Stella Andrews, and this was an author I'd never read before, and I was actually interested in some of her Mafia romances, and I thought this would be a good starting point to see if I liked her writing style, because it was only a 62-page short story, and I thought, you know, if I liked it, then that would spur me on to read more of her Mafia stories. Now, as this was a short story, obviously it was very short, and we didn't get a lot in terms of the emotional elements of the romance at all, and the premise was really that 2 individuals, Maximus and a woman, I can't quite remember her name right now, but I'll make sure that I write it all down for my monthly wrap up, but they are due to be arranged in marriage. They've never met each other, and they're kind of both in Vegas to kind of have their last night of freedom before they're forced into this arranged marriage. She is with her friends, they go to bed, and she goes down to reception to pick up a key card for her room, and when she's there she overhears a man called Maximus ordering some entertainment for himself for the evening. So she convinces the receptionist to let her up to his room, and she's going to pose as his entertainment for the night because she thinks this is a fantastic opportunity to lose her V card and kind of, you know, stick it to her dad and these people arranging this marriage. And of course then her and Maximus share a night together, and in the morning she then leaves to go to the wedding. And of course when she then is about to step down the aisle, they see each other and realise it's them who are going to be getting married to each other. So like I say, a very, very short story. So overall, I did enjoy the writing style of this one. I definitely would read more of Stella Andrews, but this particular story in itself, it was just too short for me to really buy into any romantic connection between this couple. So overall, that was a 3-star for me, but would definitely read more from Stella Andrews. Next up then, I read Owned by the Cartel because I wanted some points for reading a cartel romance. And this was #1 in the Narco Vows series. This is by Nikki Blake. Again, another new to me author, never read anything from this author before. I picked this one up because I just saw it was a cartel romance and I wanted to read some more of those. Plus it was on the shorter side, and I knew that meant that I would be able to get it through it pretty comfortably, get me some more points in the Mafia Readathon. And all of the books in this series are on the shorter side, so I thought it may be a series that I can kind of plough through pretty quickly. Now again, I really liked the writing style from this author. The introduction to this book, you know, was very sort of direct. We get straight into the action, as you'd expect from a book that's only around 120 pages, and very quickly the hero and heroine are in close proximity to one another. And essentially this woman was married, but she is now widowed and she has a young girl, and the cartel have come for her. Her husband owed them a lot of money, so now he's coming to collect her as payment, and he takes her to live with him in his house. Now they're in close proximity to one another and things go from there. Now, again, I really like the writing style of this one. It was really interesting, kept me intrigued. But this book felt like a series of individual scenes that had been pieced together to make one book. I felt there was lots of gaps between the chapters, and it very much jumped from him taking her to them going on a date in the house to then somebody attacking the house. And I felt like it definitely missed kind of connecting scenes where we kind of go, what is she actually doing in this house? Because he kind of captures her, puts her in a bedroom, and the next thing is they're going out to dinner. But what's happening in the space between? Is she exploring the house? Is she getting to know any of, you know, his other staff? Like, what's his intention with her? Is she there as a servant or as a slave, or is he keeping her as a kept woman? It's like really unclear. And so I felt like I say, this book was a series of scenes that had been put together to make a book with no connecting scenes that really kind of gave us any kind of depth to their kind of story. But still, it was a fun, interesting read. I really like the writing style, so it did keep me kind of interested in what I was reading, but again, quite short. And because of the lack of sort of continuity through the story, then I rated this one 3 stars as well. But we'll definitely read more from this author for sure. Okay, so that is everything that I've read so far. Like I said, I was away for the weekend, came back last night, which was Sunday. Today is Monday, the 5th of May. So we've still got a full 6 days to go of the Mafia Romance Readathon. And the great news is that today, like I say, is a bank holiday in the UK, which means we get a day off work. And I also booked 2 additional days, Tuesday and Wednesday as well, just so that I had more time to devote to the Mafia Romance Readathon and to get some life admin done as well around the house. So it is early in the morning right now. It's 8:15. I've already had my breakfast and I'm just about to sit down and prep 3 videos because I need to prep my next set of videos. I do like to be ahead with my videos and kind of plan ahead, mainly because I do get busy at weekends. That is the only time really that I have to record and edit videos, and I don't want to spend the whole weekend doing that because obviously I want to find time to do some reading as well. So when I get the opportunity, like today for example, in the next couple of days I've got a few days off work, then I like to kind of pre-record or prepare and record as many videos as I can, and that just takes the pressure off for the next couple of weeks as well. I also, like I say, I've got a few things I need to do around the house, one of which is to go out and mow the lawn. So the plan very much is to do kind of all my admin, do some Instagram posts, catch up on my Mafia Romance Readathon bingo board and make sure the points are up and everything, prepare for the videos. Then I'm going to go out and mow the lawn. Then I'm going to come back in and get myself showered and ready, and so I can record the videos, and then hopefully I'll have a bit of time to make dinner before my very first live show kicks off, because tonight at 7 p.m. UK time, I'm going to be going live for the very first time on YouTube for the Mafia Romance Readathon, so I'm going to be doing some sprints there. So I am a little bit nervous. Because I've never done it before, I've not used the technology before, but I've watched some YouTube videos and done a bit of a test run using StreamYard, which the other booktubers use as well. So we'll see how that goes, and it'll be interesting to see how many people are able to join just because of the time zone. It'll be 7 p.m. for me here in the UK, so hopefully that will be suitable for other people who are in Europe as well. But it'll be kind of lunchtime-ish in the US, which... You alright, buddy? Yeah. So that's my cat Hanzo. He has recently had a trip to the vet where he's had to have a couple of teeth taken out. So he's feeling a bit sorry for himself at the moment, but he's almost back up to full health, and I can tell because he's been very, very annoying, bless him. He's very, very cute, but also gets very annoying, as I'm sure if you're a cat owner, you know only too well how annoying they can be sometimes when they put their minds to it. He's just about to knock the his own medicine off the side. So there we go. So that's the end of the clip for today, but I'm going to tune in later, let you know how I've been getting on today, if I've done everything that I was hoping to do, but also to see how I'm getting on during the live sprint as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next clip. Good morning. Today is Tuesday the 6th of May, and so we're well over halfway through the Mafia Romance Readathon now. Unfortunately, I've still only read 2 stories, and one of those was a short story at just 62 pages, and one was a short novella at 120 pages. However, last night I did start Be With Me by Gabrielle, which I've got an ARC copy of, and I believe it's due out on the 14th of May. So by the time this video goes up, it should be available to you, or just about to become available if you haven't got an ARC copy of that book. And I'm 30% in now to that story, which I'll definitely get finished today, which is good because that will score me some points for a number of categories. So before I kick off and tell you how I'm getting on with that book and what's been going on so far, I thought I'd just recap what happened yesterday. So I checked in the morning, and it was a pretty busy and productive day, although like I said, I didn't do a lot of reading. But I took the opportunity while we had nice weather as well to go out and mow the lawn. So I spent most of the morning doing that yesterday, and then came in and had lunch, and then in the afternoon I had to record 3 videos. So I actually ended up recording my April reading wrap up, the next Mafia Romance Monday video, which is going to be about trackers. That is going to be the theme of it, so characters who've had trackers implanted on them or are holding trackers in some way, whether that's through their mobile phone or through a piece of jewellery. And then I also recorded an age gap romance recommendation video as well. So that took a couple of hours to record all of those videos, particularly my reading wrap up for April. I think it came out at about 1 hour and 45 minutes, but I will be able to cut that down, and usually I can cut it down from about 1.5 hours down to about 1 hour. So it'll probably just be over the hour mark, which is not ideal, but hopefully I'll be able to cut quite a lot from what I've recorded. I do tend to make quite a lot of mistakes, cut those out, and if you've seen any of my videos, you'll know that I also do bloopers at the end as well. And then after that, really, it was time to make the tea and then get ready for my live show. So last night I did my very first live show, my first live sprint on YouTube. Now I had prepared a few bullet points in terms of what I was going to talk about, just to get the conversation going at the start, and I was really lucky that Jen from the Book Refuge joined me as well, so that made it a little bit easier for us to have a bit of a chat. Still, I did think I was a little bit awkward at the start, and I cut off the chat a little bit early. I think primarily because not many people had joined at that point, so there weren't very many comments or things to discuss, and also I couldn't think of anything more to say that was kind of relevant to the sprint, so I kind of just kicked off the first sprint pretty early into the initial conversation. But it did get easier as we went through, and I felt we did have a bit more of a chit chat later on in the session as well. Okay, so during the sprint then, that is when I picked up and started Be With Me by Gabrielle Sands. This is book 1 in her new series, and it's going to follow the Ferrero family. We were introduced to that family in the Fallen God duet. Our hero in that one, Nero, does end up spending quite a lot of time with the Ferraros, and in particular we were introduced to Alessio, who is the family's enforcer. And I don't know what it was about him, but I was really excited when I knew that he was going to be getting his book. And the book that I'm reading now is not his book, it's actually his brother Romulo's, but we know Alessio's book is going to be coming in this series, and I can't wait because he's a little bit unhinged, he's a little bit unstable, but also it's clear that he has a kind heart as well, and so I can't wait to see how his story unfolds. But for this one, like I say, it's actually Romulo who's the youngest Ferrero brother, and he is kind of the information man. So he really is able to manipulate people, get information out of people, and therefore they can get the dirt on people, and he can use that as leverage in any of their dealings. So that's kind of his sort of role in the family. Already we know that he might be a little bit of a damaged hero in some way, that he definitely doesn't have the best relationship with his mother, and I think something definitely happened to him when he was younger that is left him with some mental scars, shall we say. We don't know what they are yet, but he's definitely already been triggered at least once in the start of this book for something that the heroine said. So that'll be interesting to discover more from him. Our heroine, on the other hand, is actually the daughter of a man who's running for mayor, and he is the enemy of the Ferreros. In fact, he's the enemy of all organised crime, and part of his campaign is very much hinged on the fact that he's going to rid the city of all the bad elements in the city. So he's really gunning for the Ferreros. Now, as she's the dutiful daughter, she goes with her father to rallies. She gets involved in lots of volunteering activities and is always seen on camera, dressing the part, doing the right things, saying the right things to support her father's campaign. And so we learn very quickly that she's a very selfless sort of person. She cares about the people around her, will do anything for them, almost at her own detriment. She is trying to get a business off the ground. She is a designer. One of her jobs is to dress people for functions, and her business is really suffering because she's always pulled into political rallies, doing things for her father. And we also learn that she's got a stepmother who, while she really cares for her stepmother and is trying to do the right thing and support her, her stepmother doesn't treat her too kindly. She isn't cruel to her, but there's no love there from the stepmother. So we know then that technically our heroine and the hero should be enemies, right? Because her dad is coming for him. At the start of this book, they actually kind of have their own meet cute, if you like, and that is because our heroine goes to her friend's engagement party. She's not actually invited, but she's quite angry she's not invited, and she goes there to kind of like see why her friend wouldn't invite her. And when she gets there, she realizes it's because her friend is actually engaged to Cosimo, who is one of the Ferrero brothers. This is an arranged marriage, and she discovers for the first time that her friend has ties to the mafia and is now in an arranged marriage with Cosimo Ferrero. And that is why she wasn't invited to the engagement party, because obviously her dad is trying to get rid of all of the criminal elements in the city. And so her friend ushers her into a bedroom, says, you need to hide here, we'll call you a cab, you need to get out before any of the mafia families see you. And so while she's hiding out in one of the bedrooms, Romulo is going to come in, and he is going to, have a altercation with her. Now, he thinks she looks really familiar but can't quite place her, and in the end she does escape. And it's only the following day when he's watching TV and sees her on TV he realizes who she is. And now he believes that her father has got a bit of a weak link, and he determines that he's going to get to know our heroine a little bit more to see if he can, dig a bit deeper, see what he can find out about her father, and hopefully sway the campaign so that he can keep his family safe. And that's kind of as far as we've got so far, but very intriguing. Really sucked into this story and looking forward to finding out what is going to happen next. Okay, so that's for the book. So what am I doing today? It's still fairly early in the morning. I've been up over an hour, and it's still only 7:20. So on the docket for today is some relaxing this morning, catching up on some YouTube videos that I didn't get around to watching over the weekend. Then unfortunately I have to take my cat to the vet. He had some dental work a couple of weeks ago, had to have a couple of teeth out, and so he's going back to the vet today for his checkup to make sure that everything is okay. So I've got to wrangle him into his cat carrier in about an hour or so and get him off to the vets for a first appointment this morning. Then I need to edit my videos, so when I get back I'm going to be spending a couple of hours editing the videos that I recorded yesterday, getting them up onto YouTube so they're all locked in and ready to go for the next couple of weeks. And then hopefully I will have time later on this afternoon and this evening to sit down and finish that book from Gabrielle Sands. So that's all I've got for you right now. I'll check in again later if I need to, otherwise I'll pick up with you again tomorrow. Time for another clip, and it's now the 7th of May, so it's a Wednesday evening and it's just about 15 minutes before I start my second live stream of the week. So really looking forward to the next set of reading sprints. I've had today off work again and I didn't have any other things to do, so I've been able to read all day. And the great thing is I've been catching up with all of the other hosts' sprints as well, so I've had those running today. So I've caught up on all the chit chat and also then spent some time reading. So I was really pleased to finish Be With Me by Gabrielle Sands first thing this morning, so I managed to finish that. I was going to stay up late last night to finish it because it was so good and I really didn't want to put it down. But I knew that I needed to get a good night's sleep, so I ended up putting that down about 10:30, went to bed and then got up early this morning and finished it, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a very, very emotional read. I really love these characters, absolutely fell in love with Romeo and Mia. I thought Mia was such a great character, and so I was just hooked very much from the first page all the way through. And yeah, like I say, I got up early this morning to finish it and rated it 5 stars. It was really, really good. So then after that I picked up Once Burned by Sam Mariano, and I'm currently about 72% into this one. It's book 3 in a Morelli crime family series, and I've been slowly working my way through this one. I really kind of want to see what all the fuss is about with Matteo Morelli. You know, he is one of Sam Mariano's probably most famous heroes. And we know that it's going to get much worse before it gets better. So like I say, I'm on 72% into book 3. I'm really enjoying it so far. And in this one we're following Adrian, who is Matteo's right-hand man, and Elise, who used to be a kind of a servant in Matteo's house. And Adrian has been kind of working for her freedom, and now they're finally free of Matteo. But Adrian is going to have to go back and, you know, do a bit more work for Matteo before the end of this. So that's as far as I've got. Like I say, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm gonna have to tune in now for my live show, so I'll check back in with you later or tomorrow morning to let you know how I got on. Hey everyone, it's now Friday night, so we're now on the final stretch of the Mafia Romance Readathon. My last check-in, I think, was just before my live show on Wednesday night, when I was reading Once Burned by Sam Mariano, and I did in fact finish that book on Wednesday evening. I can't say too much about it because it is a Mafia Romance saga following the Morellis, and of course I believe the first sort of 4 books are not so secret in terms of what happens, but after the 4th book then you have to read them in order, and there's a lot of secrecy around the series, and so not many people share about it. In fact, Sam Mariano herself hasn't shared any of the blurbs from that. All I can say is that I did really enjoy book 3. I really like the characters. It focused on Adrian and Elise, and Adrian is Matteo Morelli's kind of right-hand man. He was a best friend growing up, but Matteo Morelli's father, Matt, really did mistreat Adrian and his family, and as a result Adrian has kind of like become a bit distanced himself from Matteo, and they were clearly separated for a while and then came back to work for Matteo for 5 years because Adrian was working to free Elise, who was one of Matteo's housekeepers and essentially not exactly a slave, but not free to leave either. And so Adrian kind of promised Matteo that he would work for him for 5 years, and at the end of that 5-year period he and Elise would be free to go. And so this book starts where Adrian has now earned Elise's freedom and they get to be together, but of course Elise has lived with Matteo since she was a young girl and she struggles very much to live in kind of normal life. And it's not too long before Adrian kind of has to go back and support Matteo because someone is trying to unalive him, and Adrian does feel responsible and goes back to help with this situation and ends up then pledging his allegiance to Matteo on a permanent basis, and so he comes back into Matteo's orbit. This is a romance, like I say, between Adrian and Elise. It's a pretty short book, just under 300 pages, so it was quick and easy to read, but it was a great instalment in this series, and obviously I am working towards book 5, where I'm assured things really start to ramp up from there. So I was just checking the time there because tonight, because it's Friday night here in the UK, Kyan from Kindness Booked is actually doing the live show today, and it's 1 p.m. CDT, so it's 7 p.m. my time, which means I can actually join this one. So I'm going to be joining her in just a couple of minutes time for the live show. So I just wanted to check the time to make sure that I still had time to finish off. What I will say is last night I picked up a book called Don't Tease Me by Renee Rose. I picked that one up because I'm in an hour about what to read. I needed another one to definitely tick off at least one more prompt on the bingo board to get myself another bingo, because tonight I'm going to be finishing When Heroes Fall. That is an audiobook that I'm listening to, and that'll be the final read of the readathon for me. And I saved it to the end. I've been kind of working my way a little bit through it, a bit at a time, but it's going to be the final one for me, simply because I knew at the end it'll probably be a cliffhanger. I want to go on to read the second book, and of course I wanted to read a kind of a diverse mix of books this week, just to tick as much as I could off the bingo board and the points board as well. But Don't Tease Me by Renee Rose, the reason I picked that one up is because I've read some of her Russian Mafia romances before, really liked them, and she's not on KU, so you do have to buy her ebooks. This particular one is the first of a series, and therefore she was offering it for free, and I downloaded it. It is a Cosa Nostra romance, which got me that point on the bingo board, and I really enjoyed it. It was a BDSM Mafia romance, and I absolutely flew through it. Again, a book that was under 300 pages, and I really enjoyed it, rated it 4 stars. So I'm going to have to drop now so I can go onto the live show and join Kyan and Jen, but I'll be back tomorrow morning to give you an update of how I got on, and also kind of wrap up this vlog so I can get it live for you next week, and just reveal how I got on in the readathon overall. So stay tuned, and I'll be back for maybe 1 or 2 more clips. Hello, well this is going to be my final clip of this vlog, because it's now Sunday the 11th of May and the Mafia Romance Readathon is now finished, but we still do have a live show tonight, which is around lunchtime in the US and 9 p.m. in the UK, and I will be dialing into that, so hopefully I will get to speak to all of the other hosts as well. If we all make it, it'll be the first time we've actually all been together on a live stream during the whole of the readathon, but it's been such a fantastic week, and every day there has been live sprints for people to get involved in, so it's been an absolutely fantastic week and I've really enjoyed it. First of all, I do want to apologise for the shakiness of the camera, particularly at the start of this vlog. I have actually edited most of this, I'm just waiting to film this clip and add it in so I can finalise the video, but I did notice how shaky it was at the start, and that was because it was a vlog. I was actually holding the camera rather than having it on a tripod or a stationary surface, which did mean it shook around quite a lot, so I do apologise for that. I hope it wasn't too off-putting, but it's definitely a learning curve for me because I don't do very many vlogs at all, and so I have to pay more attention to that in the future. Okay, so the last book that I finished for the Mafia Romance Readathon was When Heroes Fall by Giana, and this is part 1 of her Anti-Heroes in Love duet. Now, I've been saving this one to the end, one because I'd been slowly listening to this one as an audiobook throughout the week, but because it was a duet and I knew there was a second part, I kind of saved this one to the end in case I was really gripped by the cliffhanger and wanted to go on to book 2, because really I just wanted to read as much diverse authors as I could during this week, so I didn't want to read 2 whole books by the same author. So while I did actually listen to this one as an audiobook, I actually have got a physical copy of this book. I absolutely love the front covers on these, both for When Heroes Fall and Villains Rise. I absolutely love the front covers, and in fact I love all of Giana Darling's front covers. I think she's got a great eye, and it's one of the reasons why I've collected all of the Fallen Men series as well. I've only actually read the first 4 books of that series, but I've got all of the books just because I think the covers are absolutely fantastic. There's something about them that really draws me in, and it's no different from this duet as well. They're very simple, but there's just something about them that I really love. So of course I'd heard about this duet quite a lot in the past. It's been on my TBR for a long time, and like I say, I've just finally got around to diving in. What I didn't realise, but this was part of a kind of interconnected world, if you like, and actually does exist in the same universe as the Fallen MC. They were very briefly mentioned in here at one point. Not that we saw any of the characters, but the motorbike club was mentioned. And also it's clear that some of the siblings of our heroine in this book, Elena, have had books themselves, so we've already got some of their story, and a more recent trilogy that's come out does also focus on Elena's brother Sebastian as well. So this is part of a much bigger world, and I actually didn't realise that. So in this book, like I say, we've got this heroine Elena, and she is very sort of prickly sort of character. She's estranged from her siblings and her family, mainly because she has had a pretty difficult ride. She's had a couple of boyfriends in the past that she's cared a lot about. The first one mistreated her quite badly. Also, I believe went off with her sister. That's kind of what I gathered from this book. But then more recently, she had a quite a serious relationship with a man called Daniel, and he ended up having an affair with her sister Giselle, ended up marrying her and having a child with her. And as a result, Elena became quite cold and quite bitter, and you know, was actually quite cruel to her sister as a result, but very, very understandable. Now, because of this, like I say, she's kind of estranged from some of the other family members, but one of her other sisters, Cosima, who has also had a previous book, she would do absolutely anything for Cosima. She absolutely loves her to death, and this is kind of like the driving force behind the start of this story, because Cosima is best friends with our hero in this one, Dante. Dante is the head of the Camorra Mafia in New York. He is part Italian, part British, and now resides in New York. And like I say, he is the head of this Camorra. And at the start of this book, Dante has been arrested, and he's on trial for committing a murder, which he didn't actually commit, although obviously he has unalived people in the past, so he's not exactly an innocent man. He is a criminal at the end of the day. But this particular murder that he's been accused of, he hasn't done, and so he's now on trial for murder. And so Cosima goes to her sister Elena, who actually happens to be a lawyer, and begs Elena to sit on Dante's legal team and basically defend him in court. Now, Elena is resistant to this because she's very anti-mafia. She grew up in Italy. Her father is kind of connected to the mafia. She's seen the destruction that the mafia can bring to families and how dangerous they are. And she spent her whole life, obviously, on the right side of the law and learning law and becoming a lawyer. And she very much sees things in black and white, good and bad, and she is definitely on the side of good. And so she really doesn't want to represent Dante. She knows that he's a really bad man, and she kind of like battles with her own moral compass, if you like, in terms of defending him in court. But because she loves Cosima so much, she agrees to do this. Now, Dante is intrigued by Elena straight away, and he then insists that she move in with him into his apartment, because while this court case is ongoing, or while they're trying to bring it to trial, he is actually now under house arrest and he can't leave his apartment. Now, granted, it is a very palatial apartment in New York, but she is forced to kind of live there with him in the build up to this trial. And of course, they're going to be then essentially roommates, if you like, housemates, and Elena is going to start to learn a lot more about Dante, and the lines between good and bad start to blur, and she realises that things aren't black and white and there is a whole load of grey in the middle. And so she really has to decide what side she's going to be on, and ultimately, of course, she's going to fall in love with Dante, and so she is firmly going to sit on his side of the law. But she's going to struggle with this throughout this book, and I absolutely love the title of this book, When Heroes Fall, and this describes Elena perfectly, because she is, like I say, at the start of this book, really fighting for good. She really believes in the legal system and justice, and over the course of this book she really starts to rethink how she feels about things and how she looks at the world, and ultimately knows that she's going to have to fall to the dark side, as it were, in order to actually get justice for the man that she is falling in love with. So without going into more of the plot, that is pretty much what happens in this book, and it does end on somewhat of a cliffhanger. Now, I was really concerned about how bad the cliffhanger was going to be and how much I would need to carry on to read this second book, and like I said, I did save this to the end in case I felt really compelled to read book 2 in this duet immediately. So in terms of how I felt about this book overall I rated this one 4 stars. It was 2.5 on the Spice scale. It is quite a slow burn between this couple. They don't actually kind of get together to quite close to the end, and there's a lot of scene setting that Giana Darling does in this book, kind of really setting it up, understanding the characters, understanding the motivations, and it is, like I say, a fairly slow burn between this couple, even though they have quite a lot of chemistry from the very first meeting. The other thing is that Giana Darling has quite a poetic way of writing. She is quite flowery in some instances, and also Dante's chapters themselves were very flowery. He was kind of a very kind of romantic, sort of poetic kind of person, and so his chapters felt much more kind of poetic and flowery than hers. And for me personally, I struggled to kind of really get into the story while listening to his chapters. Elena's chapters, on the other hand, are much more straightforward. They are much less flowery, and I think this is kind of like representative of her character. So I really liked the way that Giana Darling did that, and I felt it was quite noticeable, particularly in the audiobook. I don't know if I would have noticed it quite as much had I just read this book in physical form. But I really like both of these characters. Their characters are really compelling, their romance is very compelling, and when we finally got to the end, what I felt was that this cliffhanger is something that I can absolutely live with, because they're definitely not out of the woods. Things have definitely got worse, they haven't got better, but I felt that this couple was in a really solid place at the end of this book, and it kind of felt a bit like a happy finale. And so I didn't immediately feel compelled to then pick up the second book, which is quite good because I've got a couple of arcs that I need to get to in the next couple of days, and also quite a few more books I need to get through to like reach my reading commitments for May, if you like, for what's already on my TBR. But that said, I definitely will be picking up book 2. I have high expectations for how this one will conclude and how their romance will progress. And so overall, I definitely would recommend. It was a great pick from Cayenne for this readathon. And if you haven't read it yet, then definitely dive in. Okay then, so in terms of how I got on overall in the readathon, I managed to finish 6 stories. The first one was Maximus by Stella Andrews. That was just a 62-page short story. Then I picked up Owned by the Cartel by Nikki. That one was a novella length book, about 120 pages. Then I picked up Be With Me by Gabrielle, and this was my favourite read of the Mafia Romance Readathon, rated that one 5 stars. Went on to read Once Burned by Sam Mariano, again slightly on the shorter side, just shy of 300 pages, but a great instalment in that Morelli family saga. Don't Tease Me, which I finished last night. I really enjoyed that one by Renee, again on the shorter side, less than 300 pages, but still a great read. And then finally, like I said, When Heroes Fall by Giana Darling, and in total that racked me up 34 points on the bingo board. Unfortunately, I didn't get a full blackout. I was still short 2 prompts, which was the Irish Mob and the Bratva, but that meant I still had 14 points on the bingo board, plus I scored 4 bingos, so that was 20 points in total, so that was 34 points for the bingo board. And then in terms of the prompt points, I racked up 21 points for that. So in total, I made it to 55 points. Now, Jen has not yet revealed how many points we need to be crowned Donna or Don, but I'm fairly confident I will have hit that title, only based on a hint that if we blacked out the board, we would have enough to be crowned the Don or Donna. And if you blacked out the board and didn't score any other points, that would be 46. And so since I have hit 55, I feel, like I say, pretty confident I've hit that top spot. Now, I won't know for sure until the live show tonight, and by that time this vlog will have ended. So if you are curious, make sure that you check out Jen's channel and go and watch the recording from that live show, just to see what the point system was and how we all got on from that Mafia Romance Readathon. So that's it, that ends this reading vlog, and also it ends the Mafia Romance Readathon for another year. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it, and I just want to say a massive thank you to Jen from the Book Refuge for inviting me to co-host this year. I hope that she'll invite me again sometime in the future. And also I want to thank my co-hosts, Jess from Honest Fiction, Amber from Amber Reads Romance, and Cayenne from Cayenne is Booked. I had an absolutely fantastic time with all of you co-hosting the readathon, and like I say, I can't wait to do it again sometime in the future. So thanks for watching. As always, if you enjoyed this, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. And all that's left for me to do is thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Because I need to, oh, here we go with the clock. It chimes on the 1/4 of an hour and it gets progressively more elaborate as it gets towards the hour. So hi everyone, it is Monday, no not Monday, Thursday. Hi everyone, it is Thursday the 1st of May, so that means it's day 1 of the Mafia Romance. Good morning, today is when, no it's not, I don't even know the day, do I?